The stars above the dying world were fading. Ash drifted through the alien sky like snow, and the once bright towers of their capital stood broken and blackened. The war had lasted for centuries, and the enemy never stopped. No rest, no mercy, only the endless march of machines. The aliens called themselves the Aliari. Once, they believed they were eternal. Their ships had sailed between galaxies, their science had cured death itself, their voices had filled the heavens with music. But now, all of that was ending. The machines had no name. Some said they were older than the stars. Some believed they were the broken servants of forgotten gods. Whatever they were, they came without warning and with only one purpose: to erase all life. For the Aliari, the final moment had arrived. The high temple stood at the center of the ruined city. Inside, the last council gathered. Their armor was cracked, their robes torn, but their eyes still burned with a desperate hope. They had prepared something ancient, something forbidden. A device older than their empire, a beacon said to reach beyond the known universe. Not technology, not exactly. It was ritual, it was science, it was both. The Aliari called it the Summoning Gate. Legends said it could call across realities. Not just neighbors in space, but strangers in other corners of existence. For centuries, it had been sealed, for the risk was too great. What if they summoned something worse than their enemy? But now there was no choice. Better a monster as an ally, said the eldest priest, his voice shaking, than death at the hands of these machines. The council stood in silence. Each of them understood. If the gate worked, they might be saved. If it failed, their names would vanish with the last breath of their people. The gate was activated. Light filled the chamber, brighter than suns, tearing shadows into strange shapes across the walls. The priests chanted in old voices, and the machines outside the temple drew closer. The city shook under the thunder of war. The air screamed. The stars themselves seemed to bend. And then, silence. A single voice echoed through the chamber. It was not Aliari. It was not machine. It was something else. Who calls? The priests froze. Their hearts beat faster. One of them stepped forward. We are the Aliari. We beg for help. We are hunted. We are dying. The voice was deep, metallic, but alive. It did not sound like the gentle ally they hoped for. Do you seek mercy? Yes, the priest said, trembling. Yes, we seek mercy, we seek friends. The voice cut him off. Do you seek war? The council exchanged fearful looks. Their throats were dry, their eyes hollow. At last, the eldest whispered, if war is the only way, then yes. We seek war. The chamber shook. The gate roared. And through the burning light, shapes began to appear. Not one, not two, but a fleet. Massive black ships, darker than the void, emerged from nothingness. Each was shaped like a predator, with sharp edges and armored skin. They moved with terrifying precision, in perfect silence, as if the void itself obeyed their command. The priests fell to their knees. These were no saviors of light. These were executioners. The voice returned, colder than before. You called. We answered. Now tell us, who do you want us to kill? The Aliari had expected wings of light, golden banners, or voices of peace. Instead, the sky filled with monsters. The human fleet hung in orbit like a storm of shadows. Each ship was built not for beauty but for war. Their hulls were scarred, their guns larger than cities, and their silence was worse than thunder. The Aliari stared upward in terror, their throats tight. These were not rescuers. These were predators. On the surface, the gate's light began to fade. The priests gasped for air, their bodies shaking from the strain of calling something across the void. One of them whispered, "What have we done?" Above them, the fleet moved. Slowly, like beasts circling prey. Then, one ship broke formation. It descended through the atmosphere, a black triangle cutting through smoke and fire. The ground quaked as it landed outside the ruined capital. The city was silent. Even the machines that had been attacking pulled back, as if they sensed something far more dangerous had arrived. The Aliari Council gathered at the temple steps. They watched as the ship's ramp lowered, hissing steam. Shadows moved inside, armored figures stepping forward. Humans. They looked almost like Aliari, but harder, sharper. Their armor was dark steel, their weapons alive with blue fire. Their faces were hidden behind helmets, but their presence was heavier than gravity itself. At their center walked a single figure. His armor was older, scarred by hundreds of battles. His helmet was painted white, but the paint was cracked, giving the appearance of a skull. The Aliari would later learn his name among humans, Admiral Kale Doran. Others called him something else. The Iron Ghost. The Admiral stood before the priests. For a long moment, he said nothing. Only the sound of wind moved between them. Finally, his helmet shifted, scanning the alien faces. His voice came, deep and harsh. "You called us." The eldest priest trembled. "Why, yes. We are the Aliari. Our world, our people. We are dying. We need allies." The Admiral tilted his head, the skull mask unchanging. "Allies," he repeated, as if the word was a joke. The priest nodded quickly. "Yes. Friends. Partners in war. Please, we beg of you." Behind the Admiral, the soldiers did not move. They stood like statues, weapons ready. Their silence was worse than cruelty. Finally, the Admiral spoke again. His voice cut through the air like a blade. "We are not allies. We are not friends. We are a fleet. We are war. You called us across the void. Now answer me, who do you want us to kill?" The priests froze. Their mouths opened, but no sound came. The Iron Ghost took a step closer, his presence like a storm pressing down on them. "Speak," he demanded. The eldest priest swallowed. We are hunted by the machines. They come without end. They burn our worlds. They erase us from the stars. We cannot fight them alone." The Admiral was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he raised one hand. A hologram shimmered into the air, showing endless lines of machine ships across the galaxy. The humans must have already scanned the battlefield, already measured the enemy. The Admiral's voice was cold. "Machines. We have fought them before." Hope flickered in the priest's eyes. "Then, you will help us?" The Admiral's helmet tilted down, almost like a nod. But his next words froze their blood. "When we fight, there is no mercy. Not for the enemy. Not for anyone in the way." The Aliari felt a chill pass through them. They had asked for help. But standing before them was not help. It was judgment, wrapped in iron. Still, they had no choice. "We accept," the eldest priest whispered. "We accept your terms. Fight for us. Save us." The Iron Ghost turned to his soldiers. "Signal the fleet. Prepare for war." Above the city, the black ships began to move. Their guns powered up, their engines roared, and the stars seemed to tremble at their awakening. For the first time, the Aliari wondered if they had made a mistake greater than death itself. The night sky above the ruined capital glowed red from burning cities. The machines had withdrawn for now, retreating to the horizon like hunters waiting for the right moment to strike again. Their silence was never comfort. It was only the pause before slaughter. Inside the great temple, the Aliari Council stood before the human commander. The Iron Ghost's skull-like mask stared down at them, cold and unblinking. Behind him, his armored soldiers remained motionless, but their weapons hummed with quiet power. The eldest priest swallowed hard and began to speak. His voice echoed in the stone hall. "We call them the Harrowers," he said. "They came from beyond the rim of our galaxy. At first, they moved like shadows, consuming single colonies. But they spread quickly. For every world they take, they build new forges. For every city they burn, they birth new machines. They do not tire. They do not speak. They do not stop. The admiral listened without moving. His presence filled the chamber like a storm about to break. The priest continued, his words shaking. We fought them for centuries. At first, we believed we could hold them. We were wrong. They learn. Every battle makes them stronger. Our fleets are broken. Our worlds are ash. We are the last. For a moment, silence filled the hall. Then the admiral's voice came, sharp and metallic. What do they want? The priest blinked. We do not know. They do not speak. They do not trade. They only destroy. The Iron Ghost turned slightly, speaking to one of his officers in a language the Aliari could not understand. The officer nodded, tapping commands into a device. A new hologram appeared above them, showing fleets of machine warships, each one vast and endless. The admiral studied it for a long time before speaking again. Yes. We know them. Not these exact ones, but their kind. We have fought their cousins before. They leave nothing alive. The council gasped. Then, you understand our suffering? The skull mask turned back to them. We understand war. The youngest priest stepped forward, his eyes burning with desperate hope. Then you will help us? You will stand beside us as allies. For the first time, the admiral moved closer. His armored boots struck the stone floor with heavy echoes. When he stood only a breath away, his presence was crushing, like the weight of a mountain. His voice was low, dangerous. Do not mistake us. We are not beside you. We are not your shield. We are a blade. And blades cut in every direction. The youngest priest trembled, his courage breaking. He stepped back into the shadows. The eldest priest forced himself to remain standing. His voice cracked but did not fail. If a blade is all that remains, then let us wield it. Strike our enemies. Save what little is left of us. The admiral was silent for a long moment. Then he raised one gauntlet hand and pointed toward the stars. The fleet will move at dawn. We will strike the harrowers. But hear me, Aliari. When we fight, there will be no walls between you and us. If you stand in our way, we will cut you down with the same fire we use on them. A shiver passed through the council. They had asked for allies, but what they had received was something else entirely. Something colder, sharper, more dangerous than the machines themselves. Outside the temple, the human fleet was already preparing. Massive ships rose into the night sky, their engines burning blue fire across the horizon. Their formations were perfect, precise, like a single creature made of steel. The Aliari watched in awe and dread. They had seen countless fleets in their history, but never one like this. Every ship was scarred from battles, yet none looked weak. They carried the weight of endless wars, and yet they moved like predators ready to hunt again. Among the watching aliens, whispers spread. Are they saviors? Or have we summoned a storm we cannot control? The dawn never came. Instead, the sky burned red with fire. At the edge of the Aliari world, the machines returned. Thousands of them, their ships moving like a swarm of locusts. They filled the heavens, their metal bodies shining with cold light. No sound came from them, no signal, no voice. Only the silent promise of death. The Aliari watched in terror. Their cities were already broken, their fleets already gone. They had called for allies, but the thing that now stood between them and destruction was not what they had expected. High above the world, the human fleet moved. Black warships rose from orbit, sliding into formation. They did not panic. They did not rush. They moved with calm, deadly precision, as if they had done this 1,000 times before. To the Aliari, the machines looked like a storm. To the humans, they looked like prey. Inside the command ship, Admiral Kale Doran, the Iron Ghost, stood in silence. His face was hidden behind the cracked skull mask, his eyes locked on the enemy fleet. Around him, officers spoke quickly, giving reports, but the admiral barely moved. He was waiting. When the machines crossed the orbit line, his voice finally came. Cold. Certain. Fire. The sky exploded. Human ships unleashed their fury in perfect unison. Beams of white fire tore across the void, slicing through machine hulls. Missiles streaked forward like falling stars, breaking swarms apart in flashes of light. The Aliari below gasped as the heavens turned into a battlefield of fire and shadows. The machines answered with their own weapons, black beams of energy cutting through the dark. Entire mountains shook as stray blasts struck the planet's surface. The ground burned. Towers fell. But the human fleet did not break. They moved like predators, silent, sharp, coordinated. Where the machines were many, the humans were few, but every shot was perfect. Every maneuver was designed to kill. One Aliari child, hiding in the ruins, pointed at the sky. "They dance," she whispered. Her father shook his head, fear in his eyes. "No. They hunt." Above them, the hunt continued. The Iron Ghost watched as the first wave of machines broke apart. Hundreds of enemy ships shattered, their burning remains falling into the atmosphere. His officers reported numbers, victories, losses, but he already knew. "Push forward," he ordered. "Cut their heart." The human fleet surged ahead, slicing into the swarm like a blade through flesh. For the Aliari, it was a vision they would never forget. The machines, who had once seemed unstoppable, were being torn apart in minutes. Entire legions erased. Entire formations broken. Humanity fought not like survivors, but like executioners. And yet, there was no joy in their movements. No triumph. Only cold, efficient violence. On the ground, the priests gathered at the temple balcony, watching in awe. The eldest priest whispered, "They are unstoppable." But another priest shook his head. "No. Look closer. They are not saving us. They are destroying. That is all they know." The words sent a chill through the council. Because it was true, the humans were not fighting for the Aliari. They were fighting because that was what they were. War was not a tool for them. It was their nature. Far above, the machines tried to adapt. They changed formation, tried new tactics, but the humans were always faster. Always sharper. Every time the enemy shifted, the Iron Ghost was already ahead, predicting their move, cutting them down before they could strike. At last, the enemy's main carrier appeared, a ship larger than a continent, bristling with weapons, engines glowing like suns. The Aliari had seen this ship before. It was the Harrower's command vessel, the one that had destroyed a dozen of their worlds. When it arrived, their people had always fled. None had ever stood against it. But the humans did not flee. The Iron Ghost's voice filled the command deck. "Target the core. Break it." The fleet moved as one. The stars were quiet again. For the first time in centuries, the Aliari world was free from the endless swarm of the machines. The sky burned with fading explosions, smoke rising from destroyed cities, and the horizon glowed with dying fires. Silence settled, but it was a heavy, uneasy silence. The human fleet hovered above the planet like a shadow. Not a single ship had been lost. Not a single maneuver failed. The machines were gone, reduced to drifting wreckage, and yet the humans moved as though they had accomplished nothing. There was no cheer. No celebration. Only the quiet hum of weapons still powered, engines ready. Inside the command ship, the Iron Ghost stood at the observation deck. His skull-like mask reflected the chaos below, yet his posture remained calm, commanding. The Aliari priests approached, their robes torn, their faces pale, but their eyes filled with both awe and fear. The eldest priest spoke first, voice shaking. You saved us. Our people, our worlds, you have destroyed the enemy." The Iron Ghost's voice was low and cold. "We did not save you. We destroyed your enemies. Nothing more. And we do not ask for thanks." A younger priest stepped forward, trembling. "But you fought for us. You risked your fleet. You." The admiral interrupted, his voice like a knife. Risked nothing. We do not risk. We act. You summoned us. We answered. That is all. Remember that. The council shivered. They had called for allies, but the allies they received were not what they expected. These were not soldiers who fought for friendship. These were hunters who wiped out entire fleets in minutes, who crushed enemies without hesitation, who moved through war like it was a living thing. Your fleet, whispered the eldest priest. They are unstoppable. The Iron Ghost turned slowly, and even through the mask, the sense of weight in his gaze was like a storm pressing down. Yes. That is why you should fear us. The words hung in the air. The Aliari understood suddenly what they had done. They had not summoned helpers. They had called forth a force far deadlier than the harrowers they had feared. Humanity was not a shield. Humanity was a storm, and now the storm knew their location. Outside, the ships began to move. The admiral raised his hand, signaling the fleet. Engines glowed, weapons powered down slowly, but the human ships remained a presence, a dark reminder of their power. We leave now, the admiral said. Your world survives today. But remember this, we know you exist. We have seen your systems, your fleets, your people. If we ever return, his voice was a whisper that cut sharper than a blade, there will be no mercy. The priests fell silent. Even those who had once hoped for salvation felt a chill run through them. The eldest priest finally found his voice. You will return? The Iron Ghost shook his head, but his tone was deliberate. We do not return for friendship. We return for war. You were fortunate today. That is all. The fleet rose into the void. The humans moved as one, disappearing into the black of space. The Aliari looked up, realizing that the threat of the machines had been removed, but another threat had taken its place, one far less forgiving, far less predictable, and far more dangerous than any enemy they had ever faced. The priests gathered in the ruined temple, their eyes wide with fear. The youngest whispered, We called them to save us. But now what have we done? The eldest priest looked at the horizon, where the last of the human ships vanished into the stars. We have invited a storm, he said softly. And storms do not forgive. Even as the Aliari began to rebuild what little remained, whispers spread across the planet. Stories of the black ships. The fire that tore apart thousands of enemy machines in minutes. The mask of the Iron Ghost. The way humanity moved like shadows made of steel. Fear grew, not just of what humans had done, but of what they might do if ever they returned. Weeks passed. The world slowly recovered. Survivors wandered the ruins, finding what they could of lost families and broken cities. The priests performed rituals of remembrance for those who had died, but even their chants could not cover the heavy silence of dread that now filled the skies. No one dared speak the name of humanity too loudly. The name of the fleet had already spread like a shadow across the planet, the Iron Ghost and his hunters. Yet one thought remained in every mind. The humans had saved them, yes, but it had been on humanity's terms. No gratitude could repay what they had seen. No plea could change what had been done. The eldest priest wrote it down in the sacred scrolls. We called for salvation. We received the edge of a blade. And the blade remembers. Months later, scouts detected anomalies at the edge of the galaxy. Shadows moved in patterns too precise to be natural. The priests looked at each other, dread heavy in their hearts. They had glimpsed the future. Humanity would remember. Humanity would act. And when humanity acted, nothing, not machines, not worlds, not gods, could stand in the way. The last words of the council, whispered in fear and awe. We have survived, for now. But the storm watches. And it waits. The stars above the Aliari world were silent once more. But silence was only the pause before a storm that would return. And when it did, the galaxy would never be the same.